My name is Alira. I was born in a small town where everyone knew each other. Growing up, I always felt like I was different. Not because I was unique in any special way, but because people made me feel that way. I was a little girl with a dusky complexion, and that was enough for the world around me to remind me every single day that I did not fit their idea of beauty. From the time I was a child, relatives, neighbors, and even my own classmates would make comments about my skin. If only she were fairer, she would be so pretty. Dark girls should stay out of the sun. Who will marry her when she grows up? I was too young to understand the weight of their words, but I felt the sting in my heart. I did not know why they looked at me like there was something wrong with me. At family gatherings, my cousins were praised for their beauty, while I was either ignored or pitied. My aunt once told my mother, "You should try some fairness creams for Elira. It will help her look better." My mother, who loved me dearly, never said anything back. She just smiled and changed the topic. But deep down, I knew she felt hurt too. School was no different. The girls with lighter skin were always the favorites. They were called pretty. They were the ones the boys wanted to talk to. I, on the other hand, was the girl they laughed at. "Why do you look like that? Did you fall into a pot of coffee?" They would joke, and even though I tried to pretend it did not bother me, it did. There were days when I would come home, look in the mirror, and wish I could change myself. I would press my hands against my cheeks, wondering if scrubbing harder would make me lighter. I would cry at night, asking God why I was born like this. I wanted to be like the other girls. I wanted to be beautiful. As I grew older, the comments did not stop. If anything, they got worse. "You should stay away from bright colors. They don't suit dark-skinned girls. No one will notice you if you look like that. Maybe try some home remedies. There are ways to lighten your skin." Everywhere I went, the world seemed determined to remind me that I was not enough. But something inside me refused to give up. I did not want to believe that my worth was tied to my skin color. I started reading about powerful women who had faced the same struggles. Women who had been judged for their appearance but had risen above it. Women who had learned to love themselves despite what society told them. One day, when I was 16, something happened that changed my perspective forever. It was a normal day at school, and we had an art competition. I loved painting. It was the one thing that made me feel free. I put all my heart into my artwork, creating a beautiful image of a girl standing under the sun, her face glowing with confidence. I poured all my emotions into it, the pain, the struggles, and the strength I had started to find within myself. When the results were announced, I won first place. It was the first time in my life that I had been recognized for something beyond my appearance. As I stood there, holding my trophy, I realized something. I was more than my skin color. From that day on, I decided that I would never let anyone define my worth based on something as superficial as the shade of my skin. I started speaking up when people made hurtful comments. I stopped using creams that promised to make me fairer. I started wearing colors that made me happy, not the ones society said were appropriate for my skin tone. Of course, the world did not change overnight. People still talked. They still whispered. They still judged. But I had changed. Their words no longer had the power to break me. One day, at another family gathering, an aunt commented, "Elira, you have become so confident these days. You don't even care about your looks anymore?" I smiled and replied, "I care about my looks. That's why I choose to love myself exactly as I am." The room went silent for a moment. Then, something unexpected happened. My mother, who had always stayed quiet before, spoke up. "She is beautiful just the way she is, and I am proud of her." That was the moment I knew I had truly won. I had not only learned to love myself, but I had also given my mother the strength to stand up for me. The journey was not easy. There were days when I still doubted myself. But every time I felt weak, I reminded myself of the girl in my painting, the girl who stood under the sun, glowing with confidence. Because that girl was me, and I was enough. After that day, my confidence started growing little by little. It wasn't like I suddenly became fearless overnight, but something inside me had shifted. I had spent so many years trying to make myself smaller, trying to avoid attention because I was afraid of judgment. But now I wanted to take up space. I wanted to live without constantly worrying about what people thought of my skin. At school, things were still the same. The girls who used to make fun of me didn't suddenly stop. They still made their comments, they still whispered when I walked by, but I reacted differently now. One day, during lunch, a girl named Sophie, one of the popular girls, looked at me and smirked. "Elira, you look darker than usual today. Did you stand in the sun too long?" A few months ago, a comment like that would have ruined my entire day. But this time, I simply smiled and replied, "Yeah, I did. And I love it. The sun makes me feel alive." Sophie looked surprised, as if she had expected me to shrink away like I always did. When I didn't, she just rolled her eyes and turned back to her friends. But I noticed something. Some of the other girls at the table actually smiled at me, as if they were impressed that I didn't let Sophie get to me. That was the first time I realized that confidence was a kind of power. The way I saw myself influenced the way others saw me. If I believed I was beautiful, strong, and worthy, then others would start to believe it too. I had always loved painting, but I had never really thought about sharing my work with others. After winning the art competition, I started spending more time on my paintings. Art became a way for me to express everything I had felt for so many years: the pain, the loneliness, the strength I had to build on my own. One evening, as I was painting in my room, my younger sister Lena walked in. She was only 10 years old, but she had always been more confident than I was at her age. She looked at my painting, a portrait of a girl with deep brown skin, standing in a field of wildflowers, and gasped, "Elira, this is beautiful. You should show this to more people." I hesitated. "I don't know. What if people don't like it?" Lena crossed her arms. "Why do you care what people think? You always tell me to be confident. You should listen to your own advice." She was right. I had been telling myself that I didn't care about what others thought, but deep down, I was still afraid. Afraid of being judged. Afraid of rejection. But then I thought about everything I had been through, everything I had overcome. Why should I be afraid now? That night, I made an Instagram account and posted a picture of my painting. I wrote a caption: "For every girl who has ever been told she is not enough, you are more than enough. You are a masterpiece." I didn't expect much. I thought maybe a few friends would like it, but when I woke up the next morning, my phone was flooded with notifications. Dozens of people had liked my post. Some had even left comments. "This is so beautiful. I love the message. I needed to hear this today. Thank you. Your art is amazing. Please post more." For the first time in my life, I felt seen, not because of my skin color, not because of how I looked, but because of something I had created. From that day on, I started posting more of my artwork. Each painting told a story. Each one carried a message of strength, self-love, and resilience. Slowly, my page grew. More and more people started following me, not just from my school, but from other places too. Some even sent me messages, telling me how my art had inspired them. A few months later, something incredible happened. One evening, I received a message from a well-known art blogger. She told me she had seen my work and wanted to feature me in an article about young artists who were making a difference. I couldn't believe it. Me? The girl who had spent most of her life feeling invisible? Someone wanted to write about me? The article was published a week later, and suddenly, everything changed. More people started following my art page. Some even asked if they could buy my paintings. For the first time, I felt like my voice mattered. One night, as I was reading through the comments on my latest post, I saw a message from a girl named Maya. She wrote, "I used to hate my dark skin. People always made fun of me, and I never felt beautiful. But seeing your art and your story made me realize that I don't need to change. Thank you for helping me see my own beauty." I stared at the message for a long time. Tears filled my eyes. I had spent years thinking that I was alone in my struggle, but I wasn't. There were so many girls like me, girls who had been made to feel small, girls who had been told they were not beautiful because of their skin. And now I had the chance to change that. A few weeks later, my school announced an annual talent show. There was an open category where students could showcase anything: music, dance, poetry, even art. Lena encouraged me to participate, but I hesitated. What if people laugh at me? I asked. She gave me a serious look. Elira, do you remember when you were afraid to post your paintings online? And look at what happened. Don't let fear stop you now. She was right. Again. On the night of the talent show, I stood on the stage, holding a microphone. Instead of performing, I decided to tell my story. I talked about the years of feeling invisible, the years of believing I wasn't enough. I talked about the cruel words, the self-doubt, the struggle. But most importantly, I talked about how I had learned to love myself. When I finished speaking, there was silence. And then applause. Loud, strong, unstoppable applause. I walked off the stage, my heart racing. And then something incredible happened. Sophie, the same girl who had mocked me for years, walked up to me. She looked nervous, as if she didn't know what to say. Then, in a quiet voice, she said, Elira, I just wanted to say,
I'm sorry.
For everything. I was shocked. Of all the things I had expected that night, an apology from Sophie was not one of them. I smiled. Thank you. In that moment, I realized that I had truly won, not just against society's standards, not just against my own fears, but against the voices that had tried to keep me small for so long. Today, I am no longer the girl who hides in the shadows. I am an artist, a storyteller, a believer in self-love. To anyone out there who has ever felt like they are not enough, let me tell you this. You are enough, just as you are. No matter what society says, no matter what the world tries to tell you, your worth is not measured by your skin, your looks, or the opinions of others. Your worth is in your strength, your heart, your courage. And once you learn to embrace that, nothing can stop you.